This is the Cancer Interviews podcast. I'm your host, Bruce Morton. Our guest on this episode survived thyroid cancer, then felt a need to help others. And in a big way, she is doing exactly that. She is Paaola Sefair of Amsterdam, the Netherlands. And regardless of whether you are a cancer patient or a caregiver or know someone who is, Paaola has plenty of very helpful information. So here she is, Paaola Sefair. And Paaola, welcome to Cancer Interviews.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bruce.
We like to start off our interviews in the same way and every time, and that's to learn a little bit more about our guest exclusive of their involvement with cancer. So if you would, tell us a bit about what you do and when time allows for fun, what you do for fun.
What do I do for fun? So I'm a mom, a wife, a daughter, and a cool aunt, as my niece tells me. And I have a 9-year-old boy who keeps me extremely busy. He's super hyper. And just keeping up with him is about all I have time to do other than my CareCrew. And I love traveling. That's I guess, one of my passions in life is to be able to travel and meet different people and see different places. And other than that, I'm a homebody. Other than traveling, I'm a homebody.
Well, we have a common bond because we both like to travel. If there's any one place that you've been to that you really enjoy, what is it?
I loved going to Chile. We got to go down to Chile and drive down the coast. I thought that was one of the most beautiful countries I've been to, and the people were so amazing. So that's one of my top 5 in the world.
Now, your moving toward advocacy, which we're going to talk about, was preceded by your own cancer journey. Mm-hmm. When did you notice that something wasn't quite normal, something wasn't quite right?
It was really by fluke that I kind of started digging into what might be going on. I had trouble swallowing one day. I didn't think much of it. And then it happened again a couple weeks later. And at that point I was like, that's the second time it happened. Why is that happening? And I just happened to ask a friend who's a doctor when I was in for an appointment, nothing to do with cancer or ENT, and he just mentioned, why don't we get you an ultrasound and see what's going on? And that kind of led to a biopsy and then a diagnosis of thyroid cancer.
And what type of thyroid cancer was it? I think there are 4 different types.
Yeah, papillary, tall cell, so aggressive papillary.
And for anyone who is diagnosed with cancer, that is some pretty staggering news. We all deal with that news slightly differently. How did you deal with it? What was your reaction when you found out that you were diagnosed with cancer?
On the moment or in the moment when I found out, I was in the appointment with my son. I had a 1.5-year-old at the time. And the doctor just kind of came in and blurted, it's cancer. So in that moment, I don't have a lot of memory of what the doctor said that day because I was in so much shock. Is my first thought and my first instinct was what's going to happen to my son. Am I going to be around to see him grow up? So that was the day of. And then I went quickly back into my typical approach to life, which is what needs to happen, what's the action plan, what are the milestones, what needs to get done. And I think what happened to me when I found out after the fact is that I was in that mode of get things fixed, get things done, and just kind of go through the protocol, that while physically I was maybe getting better or I was going through my treatment, I was going through the process, it wasn't into several years into the process that I realized I never dealt with the emotional side of the experience I had gone through until it kind of just hit me all at once and it kind of unraveled me. And then I was kind of forced to go back and get therapy and work with specialists to try to navigate and work through and process all the feelings and emotions and all the anxiety and the trauma that I went through for several years. But I had ignored it to the point that I couldn't one day. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Your treatment, what was the toughest part of it?
The toughest part, I guess, the recovery from all the surgeries and the radiation, because my son at the time was 1.5 years old. I remember many times having to explain to him why mommy couldn't go out and play with him. Like he would come and tug at my hand, like, let's go play or let's go. And I just didn't have the energy. I just didn't have the energy. And that was the hardest part.
So you're
And
saying
then for a while,
so you're saying the emotional piece was tougher than the physical piece in terms of going through the treatment.
absolutely. At many, many, many times over. The emotional part has been harder to work through, to deal with, and to heal from than the physical piece. Yeah.
But you reached a point in which physically, and I hope emotionally too, you turned a corner and you edged closer to recovery. What was that like when when it was determined that you're getting the upper hand on this?
So the second time that we thought we had a NED, the no evidence of disease, it was really emotional time for me because that was a month or so after my close friend and co-founder of my CareCrew had passed away from cancer. And so in that particular point in time, I remember when the doctor told me, we don't see evidence of disease now after the second set of surgeries. And I just started bawling, and he was like, "This is good news. Why are you so sad? Why are you so upset?" And I explained to him, one of my closest friends that was dealing with this disease also had just passed away. And she also had young children. And for me, it was so hard to come to terms with the fact that it just kind of felt like by luck, I was here and she wasn't. And my son had a mom and hers didn't. And that was just really overwhelming to deal with at the time. So it was, I guess, bittersweet news that I was happy that I had no evidence of disease, but I just couldn't feel good about it for almost a year or longer until I could actually acknowledge, like, okay, it's okay for me to feel happy about having a NED diagnosis and not feel guilty about it.
By the way, we're confident you'll be able to learn some tips and tools to help you through your personal cancer journey. But first, we'd like to invite you to give us a like, leave a comment or a review below, and share this story with your friends. Kindly click on the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon so you'll be notified when we release our next cancer interview. And if you or a loved one are facing a cancer diagnosis, please click on the link in the description and show notes below to check out our free guide, The Top 10 Things I Wish I Knew When I First Got Cancer. So back to your story, Paaola. Mm-hmm. What from this experience, and I think to some degree you've already answered this question, but I want to hear you elaborate on it. What from your cancer experience inspired you to want to help others and take that desire and put it into action?
I think for me it was, so I had gone through my cancer experience, a good chunk of it, when my friend Agnieszka, who I mentioned, was also diagnosed. And when she was very ill, and we all kind of rallied around her and wanted to make sure she knew she wasn't going through this alone, and that she had friends that she could count on and talk to and be heard and be understood. In that experience, I remember when she got a little better, I said to her, I remember thinking and sharing with her that I really felt like I had failed her as a friend, because I didn't know if I had shown up for her when and how she needed me to show up. And I remember sharing with her that I had realized that I knew what it was like to go through cancer as a patient. I didn't know what it was like to go through cancer as a friend. And I didn't realize at the time how stressful and how much anxiety there's around supporting a friend and a family member, I suppose, that's going through cancer. And that conversation and that insight led into her and I having many conversations about just how horrible it is to go through cancer. I mean, nobody has, I think, a good experience going through cancer. And it's like, how could we do anything to help? Could we make it easier for other people to go through this similar experience based on the knowledge that we had gained through our painful journey with cancer? And that's where the idea for my CareCrew came about. And so we started talking to other friends who had cancer. We started talking to other patients that we didn't know, that we just wanted to learn more about their experience and see if what we had experienced as friends helping each other, was it specific to us? Was it consistent with what other people experienced? And the more we talked to people And we spoke to hundreds of patients by this time and caregivers. The more we heard consistent pain points across all our stories, and those were around asking for help, because I think most of us feel we have a hard time asking for help, let's say it that way. Offering help. So it's so uncomfortable and sometimes stressful. Like, what kind of help do you offer? How much help do you offer? Is it enough? Is it not enough? So offering help on the front side, sharing updates so that you don't have to retell your story over and over again. And then the fourth one, and I know it sounds like silly to think about, but the idea of gifts and receiving gifts that either you can't use, can't enjoy, or don't need at the time. And the example I have a friend that's going through cancer, and she just absolutely hates getting flowers. And when I asked her, like, what's wrong with flowers? I mean, what's wrong with it? She goes, well, because when the flowers start to die, it's a visual reminder of what's happening to me. And I would have never thought about that, right? And so in the app that we created, we try to address those 4 pain points: the asking for help by the patient, the offering help by the friends and family, keeping people updated, and being able to create wish lists. And whether it's a product or an experience that you want, that you're able to share that within the app with the CareCrew that you invite to be part of your private community.
Paula, I want to go over each one of these pain points with you so that you can elaborate a bit on them. But if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like this business of help, receiving help and giving help, it's a two-way street. There is a right way, there might not be a one-size-fits-all right way, but there is a right way and a better way to ask for help and a better way to receive help. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So one of the things that we wanted to figure out a way to do was to take the onus off of the patient of having to ask for help. And one way that talking to people and figuring out from other people's experiences that we thought, okay, well, if we figure out a way for friends and family to be able to offer help in a way that the patient could just see all the help that's being offered and they could accept or decline the help they need. And this came through a story of a patient who shared with us and said, sometimes you don't even know who is available to help you. And it ended up being that for her, one of her neighbors that she just kind of knew in passing ended up being the person that would bring dinner to her like once a week. But she would have never thought to ask this friend to bring her dinner once a week, right? And so we thought, okay, well, what if on the app we are able to have friends and family share all the ways that they can help. So for example, Bruce, if I'm trying to help you, I'll say, Bruce, I don't know what help you need, but I'll send you little notes, like little offers of help that say I can babysit these days, these hours, I can cook these days, I can take you to the hospital on these days. And then you get to pick. Yes, thank you, I need transportation. No, thank you, I don't need meals. And so it makes it easy for the friend to say, here's all the ways I can help you, but you tell me what is best. And so the patient doesn't have to sit back and think about all the things that they may need help with. So that's one way that we try to take the onus off of the patient of having to think of, okay, what are all the things that I need help with? Because one of the things that we found out talking to patients is they were so overwhelmed, and I could totally remember feeling this way, being so overwhelmed with emotion and just the stress and anxiety things that you didn't always know the answer to the question, how can I help you? Many times you're like, I don't know how you can help me. So we hope that by being able to allow the patient to ask what they need for in a stress-free environment and being able to seal the offers of help from their family and friends, that we make it easier for the patient to be able to get the support they need when they need it.
You've addressed the asking for help space in this. Let's talk about receiving help. And again, there might not be a one-size-fits-all approach to best receive help, but if you can talk about, if you can veer us in a direction toward maybe the best way that someone can receive help. We've talked about asking for help. What about the component of receiving help?
That's an interesting one because depending on the person, so I knew for me, receiving help was hard. I usually rejected the help because for me, it seemed, and I interpret that as if I'm no longer able to do these things and I need to have help to do them, I saw it as a weakness in that moment. And I see right now, and I know right now that it was absolutely not a weakness. It's just that at one point in our lives, we will all need help. And it's okay to receive that help. And so my number one advice for somebody who's going through that situation now is if somebody offers you help and it's help that you need, take it. You are going to need the help. You're going to need the time. You're going to need that extra support so that you can have time to heal and to feel better and to recuperate from whatever treatment you're going through. So I don't know if I have the magic answer to what's the best way to receive the help, but I guess my number one advice would be accept it if it's a help that you need. It doesn't make you a weak person. It doesn't say anything negative about you. It just means that you're in a situation where you just happen to need help and move on from that. I feel bad about receiving help.
Sharing updates with friends. I can see how this could be a thorny area. Nobody who's going through cancer wants to give or receive 100 phone calls as to how they're doing. And this is an area in which the internet, email, social media, I'm guessing, can be a major asset in terms of getting this information out, but doing it in a way that involves the least amount of stress. So if you would, Paaola, tell us a little bit more about managing this sharing of information with friends and family.
Right. So one of the things that we learned in the process and that we did ourselves was that we had different groups, right, of who would hear the full story, who would hear the sanitized version of the story, and who would just get the highlights, right? There you have different groups and different relationship and different levels of intimacy with people, and then how much you share and what you share can slightly variate. And so in the app, what we wanted to do was we wanted that the journal piece of the app would be something that you could keep to yourself because you just wanted to work through things, or you could share it with specific people, or you could share it out across your social media. And so we made it flexible so that depending on who needs to know what, when, the app allows you to be as broad as you want or as specific as you want in terms of who you want to share updates with and what updates you want to share.
We talked about 3 of the 4 pain points that you have referenced. The other one is this notion of managing gifts. And from a distance, just like you said, that may seem to be rather insignificant, but when you bring up your friend and receiving flowers which are perishable, those aren't good optics I suspect for anybody going through cancer. So if you would, Paaola, elaborate a little bit on this whole notion of gifts and receiving them, and for lack of a better word, managing reception of these gifts.
So the other thing that we wanted to figure out a way how to optimize, if that's the right word, was if people are going to give you gifts, then what if they would give you the gifts or the things that you need the most? So talking to another patient when we were going through our discovery phase, I remember she said, well, I didn't really need gifts, but I really could have used a walker for my son so I didn't have to pay for it because insurance didn't cover it. And so if I could just let my network know, look, I don't get me gifts, thank you, but I need a walker, or I need a wheelchair, or maybe it's not a thing at all that I need. Maybe I just need some company to go for a walk and I can't go do that by myself. So it was the idea of if you're going to give me something, then if I could share ahead of time the things or the experiences or the items that I need the most, wouldn't that be great? Because it would help the patient for sure to get the items that they need. I mean, in some cases, and some of the patients that we talk to who are currently using the app, and we ask them, like, how do you use the gifts feature? What do you put in there? Some people are putting grocery its. Some people are putting healthcare items that they need, toothpaste, shampoos, diapers, whatever it is that they need. So it's getting away from this idea that a gift as a novelty and more a gift as something that individual really needs to be able to make their experience easier.
Our guest is Paaola Sefair of Amsterdam, the Netherlands. And Paaola, we're going to move closer towards wrapping this up, but we've referenced your site and your support group, CareCrew. If somebody wanted to go on the internet and learn more about CareCrew, where would they go?
You can find us at mycarecrew.co. That's mycarecrew.co, not .com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Paaola Sefair, and my direct details are available there. It's probably the easiest way.
You have gone over these 4 different critical pain points. If you would address just how, with a little more specificity, how CareCrew can help somebody. If CareCrew comes to the website or they track you down on LinkedIn, exactly what would CareCrew do? Because I think people are hearing this great information from you, and they probably think it sounds great. They should, but now they would actually like to interact with you or anybody else at CareCrew to find out more. So if you would be a little bit more specific, what can CareCrew do to put these pain points and addressing them to put that into action?
So the one of the main ways we do that currently is through the free My CareCrew app that we launched last year, and that is available in the Apple and the Android stores. So it's just a matter of downloading an app from your phone app store, whether you're on an Android phone or an Apple phone, registering, setting up an account. And then once you set up an account, then you would invite the people that you want to be part of your private inner bubble. So you send via the app, you can invite them via email or via a text message. And then that person is alerted to the fact that you want to invite them to your CareCrew. And then once they accept, they join your CareCrew, and then you can start communicating with them via the app. And then you can start using all these features that we talked about within the app.
And is there information exclusive of interacting with you that one can get from your website, blogs, testimonials, etc.?
Yes. So in our website, we have blogs that we talk about. Our focus is mainly going through the emotional aspects of dealing with cancer or being a caregiver. And so in our blog section, we have many tips and ideas and suggestions of how to go about navigating cancer as a patient, how to support a patient who's going through cancer if you're a family or friend, and the same for caregivers, how to support caregivers as they're going through that experience. So lots of content on our website, and then on our socials, I focus a lot on providing bite-sized tips of how do you navigate this experience, and so in our socials, anytime you're following me, you could get little tips and bits every week with something different to hopefully help make somebody's journey a little easier.
Okay, Paula, and one more time, that web address is
mycarecrew.co.
Excellent. Paula, thanks very much for lots of great information, and for somebody listening or watching, if you need a little help addressing that emotional piece of the cancer journey, and make no mistake, that is part of it, this is a great place to go, mycarecrew.co. Paaola Sefair of Amsterdam, the Netherlands, thanks very much for talking with us. Thanks for being with us on Cancer Interviews.
Thank you so much, Bruce. I so appreciate it. Thank you.
And that's going to conclude this episode. We want to remind you, as we always do as we wrap up, if you're in a cancer journey or know somebody who is, you are not alone. There are people out there just like Paaola who have plenty of helpful information that can make that cancer journey just a little bit easier. So until next time, we'll see you on down the road.